Okay, we've got probably the next state election in Australia is going to be Queensland. We saw speculation in your paper today that will be 15th of July. What do you think is happening in the Queensland political landscape at the moment? Has Tim Nicholls been able to shake the LNP of the anti-Campbell campaign, which Labor has so effectively and shallowly campaigned on since the last election?
It's fascinating. I think the upcoming Queensland state election will be one of the most eagerly anticipated from a results perspective I've ever seen. I mean, I can't remember an election which has so many variables when you consider that Pauline Hanson is set to play a significant role. You think about how we very much have a two-speed economy in southeast Queensland compared to regional Queensland, where, you know, people are really doing it tough. I don't think some people realise how tough places like Townsville and you know, Hervey Bay and Maryborough and Mackay and Bowen are doing. It's why it's so important that this Adani Carmichael mine go ahead.
Yeah.
I did see today where there was speculation that July 15 could be the date, and I do think personally that she won't go until October. But I did meet with someone earlier today who suggested that all the stars were aligning for the Premier to announce a July 15 election just after the state budget in early June. Certainly her polling has rebounded and she's looking pretty good. We do know that the unions have been spending a lot of money in the last few months doing private polling, particularly in the regions, so they will have a fairly good idea as to how they're tracking. The Premier's always maintained she's not going to go early, but invariably, you know, we saw so
did Theresa May.
Exactly. I was going to say Theresa May said exactly the same thing, and she's gone early to take advantage of good polling. So I think it's going to be fascinating. I'm not sure how the Hanson factor will play out. I thought before WA she could win as many as 12 seats. I'm not sure if that's possible now. But certainly there will be a backlash to the major political parties in places like Townsville.
Do you think the recent merger between Australian Conservatives and Family First, who are particularly strong in Queensland as opposed to any other state in Australia, do you think that will give, strategically, Cory Bernardi an inclination to think about running in this election? Or maybe to ask you two questions at once, if you were advising him, would you say maybe wait on this one?
I think Cory Bernardi is a very smart guy. I think he knows exactly where he's tracking in relation to the national political scene. I think he'll see Queensland as a real opportunity state, as he'll see South Australia, his home state. Because, as you say, there is a strong conservative bent in particularly those two states.
Does he need to let One Nation peter out a bit, or do you think now's his best time?
If I were advising him, I would wait for One Nation to implode. I know there is a strong belief that One Nation will not implode this time round, that they won't go down the path they did 20 odd years ago and just sort of peter out. But the problem for Pauline Hanson and James Ashby is that they still attract candidates who are disaffected with the major political parties. They think that Pauline is the second coming, and clearly she's not. And I think that the discipline attached to One Nation, or the ill discipline probably is a better way of putting it, will always be there. They come in with, you know, these wonderful aspirations, and they, you know, all of a sudden they start to express their own views around certain issues, and it's closed down by the party hierarchy. So I think One Nation will ultimately fall on its sword. But, you know, going back to Bernardi, I think Bernardi is probably going to be a much stronger long-term force for Conservatives who are looking for a change from the Liberal Party.
Very quick comment. Storm in a teacup or serious problem? The revelations about the history of Mark Ellis, the former One Nation candidate for the new seat of McAllister in Logan.
Yeah. No, I think you need to always look at these and assess the allegations on their merits. I'm sure that we will see an outcome to all of that. I mean, the problem, as I said, for One Nation is that invariably they attract people who attract trouble.
Okay, now federally, what's your best advice? Because everybody's wanting to run their party the way you say. What's the best advice for the Liberal Party to not lose the next election?
For Malcolm Turnbull? Well,
the way I see it, there's three options, so let me narrow down, but feel free to ignore my three if you've got a better one. Fight on, go hard, like perhaps they should have under Tony Abbott. Resign voluntarily and say...
That ain't going to happen.
Yeah, I agree. Or complete the imitation of Labor's leadership roundabout.
Yep. I think Malcolm has to shift his political ideology to the right. I think there is an untapped voter disaffection for people, middle-class Australians who have strong beliefs around immigration, around the Republic, around our healthcare system, around education. We've seen education. I mean, I just don't understand how a Prime Minister can come out today and announce an education policy which is aimed at fairness, which I think is totally the right thing to do. There is absolutely no doubt that Australia needs to have a rethink of how we educate our children, because clearly there is an issue when we slide down that OECD poll, and I think you've got Kazakhstan above us. But why would Turnbull, why would he disaffect Catholic and independent schools when, when the socio-economic paradigm of Conservative voters is in those areas? I mean, and I made this point earlier today, he's picking on everyone, and the last Liberal politician who picked on everyone was Campbell Newman, and you saw what happened to him.
But hasn't Malcolm Turnbull just played this, other than perhaps disaffecting his base, a brilliant strategic move in totally gazumping the left's ownership of Gonski? Anytime they champion Gonski now, they're championing Turnbull.
Yes, I think he deserves some plaudits for trying to...
They can't come out and say, we want Gonski 1.
Yeah.
Like, he's actually framed the debate.
Yeah, he has, but he's also targeted, probably inadvertently, and look, Gonski's been charged with reviewing this, so someone might get into Gonski's ear and say, look, go down that path, but make sure that you don't disadvantage some of these Catholic and independent schools, because that's our core constituency. These are the people that vote for us all the time. And, but there are other issues like superannuation, Why would you target high income earners who have put away religiously, money for a nest egg for the last 35, 40 years? They've paid their taxes, they've done the right thing, they're not going to be a burden on the welfare system by drawing a age pension, and all of a sudden you start running around changing the rules so that they're disadvantaged.
Sticking your hand in their pocket.
I mean, I think that the current political system in this country has a long way to go. I think that the problem in this country now is that we do have a leadership vacuum politically.
Yeah, excellent. So Turnbull's best move from your perspective is to harden up, get more conservative. Harden
up, move to the...
Get rid of Mark Textor.
Well, maybe. Move to the right. He needs to capture the people who, when he was elected as Prime Minister, voted for him with the belief that he had so much promise and that he was going to be a terrific Prime Minister. Instead, I mean, he's as a lot of people, he's Labor light. He's Labor light.
Yeah.
He needs to be Liberal light.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't have to be as hardcore as Abbott or Howard, but he needs to shift quite considerably to the right so that he starts to capture and reflect community expectations and standards, particularly around immigration, particularly around the ABC. Why doesn't he just come out and say, look, you blokes are getting it wrong.
Yeah.
Change the way you do things or there'll be implications.
Wow, there's so much more I'd love to talk to you about. So many
Well, maybe
issues
we can do it again. You know,
I'd love
happy
that.
to do it again. Yeah.
You've been very generous with your time and hospitality. Thank you for inviting me into Courier Mail, Sunday Mail headquarters.
No worries.
It's fantastic, and it's been a pleasure meeting you and talking to you.
Yeah, anytime. No worries.
Thanks for watching. If you really enjoyed that video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Have a look at this great video next and check out the website for even more interesting articles and episodes later.